sacramental life at some point for them to come back into communion with Orthodoxy?
I think a lot of the dogmas, well, not a lot, but several of the dogmas would have to be turned into theological opinions.
Okay.
Like the Assumption, which, by the way, is a really vague document. It's, we believe that she died and was assumed into heaven. It's in the liturgical calendar. It's just that simple, I suppose you could get away with that saying it's a theological opinion, but now that I think about it, it's commemorated in the liturgy that she died and was assumed into heaven.
Right.
So,
and in the oldest written accounts and so
there
on
you
and
go.
so forth.
Yeah. Things like the Immaculate Conception, I think you might be able to get away with that one as a theological opinion. The problem with the Immaculate Conception is that the majority view was that she was purified at the Annunciation.
Yeah. That's the earliest reference to St. John Damascene that says precisely that. And so he says it's a tradition. That's the tradition. So obviously he's getting it from earlier sources, which we don't have, but apparently is assuming that is the tradition.
And he was a phenomenal compiler.
Right.
And he would have had access to that as well because he was really in the heart of things. He, spoke Syriac and Greek.
Well, so if we had to backtrack and say, okay, obviously, why is the Immaculate Conception concept necessary? Well, it's the idea of sort of a very forensic idea about what the sin of Adam entails.
Yeah.
Now that has, as far as I'm aware, there's no formal dogma in the Roman Catholic Church, but it becomes a theological trend that results like in a domino theory with a lot of other things that include with the final one being the Assumption, Immaculate Conception being the one before that. But it's kind of going back of seeing human nature in a certain way.
It is, which is odd because when you read Trent, I believe it's session 5 where they talk about original sin, it's very clear. You don't inherit the guilt of Adam, you inherit the effects thereof. It's like, this is acceptable.
Yeah, that sounds patristic still.
Right.
Point, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we can agree with this. It talks about the reatus. I mean, yeah, there's a meaning of personal culpability, but that's a fourth level meaning. The main meaning is liability. That you inherit the liability for something, not the personal guilt for it. But yeah, then you have this theological trend that sort of leads them the other way with the Immaculate Conception and the Assumption. I think that you would, with the Filioque, you would have to really backtrack on that one as well. With the papal dogmas, those would have to be heavily truncated. They've really painted themselves into a corner. I don't see it happening ever.
Yeah, so you don't foresee it definitely not in our lifetimes, but maybe not ever.
I don't see it ever.
Okay.
I don't. I think that we have a higher chance of getting the Nestorian Church to come back into communion than, and the other thing is that the Catholic hierarchy now, it's turned into a situation where, how like with the Anglican communion, okay, whatever your theology was, as long as you accepted the common book of prayer, you could be Calvinist, you could be effectively a Catholic, okay, Calvinist, Catholic, whatever, as long as you use a book of common prayer, you're still in good standing. Well, in the Catholic Church now, it's become, you can believe whatever you want. Now, this is not official, but this is how they're acting. Okay? This is how the Catholic Church itself is acting. I'll give you an example of why. You can believe whatever you want as long as you accept the Pope. So the Pope has become their book of common prayer. Now, there have been times where they haven't even gone that far. You have the Ratzinger formula.
What does that define?
Oh, wow. Okay, so the Ratzinger formula, Pope Benedict, back when he was Cardinal Ratzinger, and then he got republished, I believe, when he was Pope, it said we could have communion even now if the East refuses to label as heretical the developments in the West that have happened post-schism. And here's the part, if the West accepts the East, and this is the best part, in the form it has always had. He admits, we've stayed the same. Okay, that's what it is. So that's the Ratzinger formula. And he was the most educated Pope ever.
Yes. Yeah.
He described our dogma